Okay, I'm just going to check I'm live. I think I am, but I'm going to make sure you can hear me before I start talking, because I've come on before and been chatting and been told that I'm not heard. So let's see. Yep.
Okay, I'm just going to check.
Okay, great, I'm on. Right, what I'm going to do is have a little chat about dreams and nightmares, and going through, when we've been through early trauma, how nightmares and flashbacks can happen when we're asleep. So a lot of people, it's interesting when people assume that healing is so easy, that all we have to do is forgive and be over it and done with our trauma and not go on about it. But then we go to sleep and then we'll have these terror nightmares where we're basically processing stuff. And the whole purpose of dreams is that it's stuff that comes up that's coming out of us that needs to be processed. Not everybody does dream or remember their dreams, so it'd be interesting if anybody comes on and they can say whether they're very active in their dreams, or whether some people don't dream at all, I hear. But that surprises me. I dream every single night, and the first 20 minutes of sleep I feel like I'm touching in with other realms. I see faces, face to face, eyes to eye, and I get a lot of healing from my dreams as well. And over the years, I've had lots of dreams when I was younger that were reoccurring, that were very scary. But as I worked out in the dreams, I would work out a way around things. And we all do our healing differently, but dreams and nightmares can be very terrifying when we don't know what's going on. And that they're basically, dreams are symbols and they're helping us to process. So going on with nightmares, so nightmares can be a type of flashback because our biology is set up that our brain's still thinking. Even when we go off to sleep, our brain is still functioning. And to me, there's no separation from being awake and being asleep. I mean, obviously we're conscious, but when we're awake, but when we're asleep, we're in another part of our psyche, but we're still on planet Earth. So they're very meaningful, that a lot of, we can pass them off as just dreams. But if we begin to analyze them and look at them, we can begin to see what healing is taking place or needs to take place by coming to our own conclusion of what the dreams mean to us. So I've got two viewers at the moment. If anybody's watching and they want to chat, if you've had any dreams, or you have quite a active dream state, I'd be really interested to know. So nightmares can be very triggering when we wake up at night. And something I had to do for years, I went through a stage where I wouldn't go to bed with the light, with my lamp off. So I had to get myself a salt lamp eventually, and with a dimmer switch, so that I wasn't sleeping with a bedside lamp, because I went through a stage where I was terrified when I was going to sleep. I'd have out of body experiences and sleep paralysis, which meant that I'd think that I was awake, but I was actually asleep. So I'd be quite, terrified. And a lot of my dreams really came to life when I stopped drinking alcohol, and I was no longer disassociating using alcohol. So my dream life became a lot more active. So what do we got? We got, so basically we're processing when in dream state. What we're doing is that we're processing, and if we've had early trauma, then we're going to be processing our early trauma, and some of our nightmares will relate to that. We also have the fight, flight, freeze response, which takes place when we're asleep. Like if we're in a particular state and we're afraid, we might shout out, or we might move our body, or hit out at somebody and stuff like that. And part of the dream state also, I'm sure, I don't know, I only know one person who's a veteran who's been in Vietnam, who was saying to me that they have flashbacks and memories and still affected by them. So we can see that CPTSD and PTSD, complex PTSD, whatever we call it, if we've been affected by trauma, which most people on planet Earth have, depending on how we've processed it and how we're dealing with it in our lives, we're going to be living out, our trauma in one way or another. And the other thing is, so I see eyes. I'm just looking at my list here. So I get to see eyes eye to eye in my sleep. And I used to be really terrified of them and get a bodily reaction. Like I'd see a face and I would jump. And I wonder, I was wondering to myself, are they real faces? Does it mean anything? So I did go through a lot of terror with that. But now I can see these faces and I don't give a bodily reaction like I used to. And I feel like I communicate with them. It might sound mad, but I'll basically be able to look them in the eye. There's no sound, there's no voice. It's just like a stream of different faces that I've never seen before, which fascinates me, what the psyche is doing when it's asleep. Carl Gustav Jung, who was to do with psychoanalysis, and he worked with Freud, and he was 20 years younger than Freud. He wrote a lot on dream work, and Jungian therapy is a lot to do with dream analysis as well. That's worth knowing. And Jung actually did see eyes as well, which interests me, or faces. And I think in the Red Book, a book that he's done called The Red Book, he made drawings of those faces, which is something that a friend mentioned to me the other night. Maybe I could do that. And I'm not brilliant at drawing, but I could have a go, I guess, and see what, dig deeper into the meaning of what I'm seeing in my sleep states. So Jung definitely said, that, and the Jungian therapy says that this is about processing our dreams. And as we look at our dreams, then we're going to empower ourselves, because we're giving ourselves the space to sort of analyze ourselves. Nobody can really tell us what a dream means. And you can go on Google and Google what a dream means, but we've got to understand that what somebody says a dream means is somebody else's idea. So it's up to us to, analyze our own dreams, in my opinion. And we could ask a friend, I wonder what that means. But at the end of the day, we've lived our lives. We know what we've experienced and been through, and we can often put two and two together. And one thing I would say, if you do have nightmares and you sort of sleep in the dark, you can always get something like a salt lamp. They're really brilliant if you get a dimmer switch on them. And that means if you do wake up and you're in a freaked out state in the night, that you get to see your surroundings really quickly. The other thing I've done sometimes when I've really been scared is that I'll tap on my collarbone, or I'll get up and make a cup of tea or something like that. So we can't really control our dreams. And some people I know have mentioned to me that in the past that, they've had to go and take anxiety pills or try and, sleeping pills to sort out their dream states or get to sleep early. But I think that it's better for us, if we want to heal, to stay away from medication as much as we can. I'm not against it. I don't take any medication myself, but I think, there are natural things that we can take. The other thing we can do if we're having trouble sleeping, if we begin to exercise, then we can put our body more in balance. And then clearly the foods we eat during the day and before we go to bed, they're going to, have an effect on the psyche when we go off to sleep as well. I know people say, I haven't done it for years, but, if you eat cheese, then you're going to have really bad dreams. I haven't eaten cheese for years myself. Not into dairy that much, but, we can sort of try different things if we are having nightmares, to alleviate them by changing our diet slightly, maybe doing some more exercise, and making our surroundings comfortable as we can. And also maybe if we're going through a really bad stage, letting a friend know, or talking about our dreams to somebody, not just hiding everything inside and thinking there's something wrong with us, because it's definitely a case of processing when we have nightmares. And what I found as well is that as I process my dreams, like my really frightening dreams that I had for years, I could give some horror stories on my dreams, but only if anybody wants to tell me, if people want to chat about their dreams, then I'll quite happily delve into a few of mine. I would say that I noticed that my dreams began to change. So I'll give you one example. When I was about, I think I was about 5, I lived on a hill in, like it was not a steep hill, it was houses that were on the street was on a hill. And I had a reoccurring dream for years, where I was trying to claw up the hill, and it was made of concrete. And I was clawing with my hands, and I was terrified in this dream because I kept sliding back down this hill. In my dreams, it was a lot steeper, so everything was accentuated. It was slightly different, but I remember the terror feelings and feeling scared. And that went on for probably maybe 10, 15 years, that dream. And one day in the dream, whilst I was dreaming, I thought there has to be another way to get up this hill. And then I actually in the dream did find another way. And then I woke up and I've never had that dream again. So it's interesting how we're trying to figure something out. And with that particular dream that I was having, I understand, I've analyzed myself what that meant to me. Nobody else would have been able to analyze that dream for me, because I was, we're all living our own lives. When we wake up in terror, the heart will be beating very fast. So we're going into the sympathetic mode. The parasympathetic mode is when we're at rest. So when we're, like if we have a meal, then we'll sort of sit back and we'll just be relaxing. But when we're in sympathetic mode, the heart speeding up and the cortisol levels of off the rails, and we can get sweaty palms, that we can have a lot of reactions. And what we want to do is try and balance our lives out so we're not freaking out all of the time. And a lot of people who've been through childhood trauma are also extremely hypervigilant, always looking over their shoulder, particularly if there was abuse at home. With violence or sexual abuse, I was listening to something yesterday on Audible, a guy called Peter Levine, and he deals with somatic therapy. So not so much talk therapy, but somatic therapy of what does it feel like in the body to be afraid of somebody, or what does this feeling feel like? So it's not so much a talk therapy, but all therapies are useful when we're healing from trauma-based, experiences. And he did say, and I know myself for years, like every time I'd gone off to sleep, I didn't know when I was going to be, bothered, or when somebody was going to bother me. So the problem is with that is that the hypervigilance almost stays with us, and it takes years to rebalance that out, because we've got to see it and see what's happening before we get to a place of being able to put things straight in our heads, and then for different things to be happening to us or in our lives, to make our lives easier. And so as we process dreams, they do begin to change. So where we're having nightmares and we're thinking, how the hell am I going to get rid of them? This is really awful. We can basically, we could do something like as we go off to sleep, something I do, and, everybody's different, but I call in 3 protectors when I go off to sleep every night now. I say, and we're all different, so this is just what I do. I say, Archangel Michael, be with me. Archangel Gabriel, be with me. And Jesus, be with me. So I'm not religious, but I like the archetype of Jesus because he was full of light. He didn't take any nonsense. If we look at the Bible, he stood up for humanity, and he was a powerful force in this world. And it's of spirit and it's of light, and we are that. And there are protectors or archetypes that are protectors in this world. And when I go off to sleep, I say that out loud, literally I say, Archangel Michael, be with me now. Jesus, be with me now. And Archangel Gabriel, be with me now. So we can have our own way of dealing with our psyche as well, to comfort ourselves in whatever way we desire. The other thing I said about a salt lamp. So also we need to do our inner child work. If we wake up and we're, when I had that dream last week that was really terrifying, and it's a dream I've not had before. It was a terror dream, and it really scared me. It was very shocking. I'd been asleep about 2 hours and I woke up, and it stayed with me like for 48 hours. I was processing that dream. I thought, what was that dream? And then I processed more of my layers of my own wounding from childhood. So this, it's beautiful work. If we want to start looking at our dreams instead of, feeling disempowered by them, we can begin to be empowered by them. Instead of shoving them away and saying, I don't want to look at that, we can begin to look at it, get a notepad and pen, or speak to a friend and say, hey, I've had this dream and it really freaked me out. And, I'm trying to understand it. So there can be a lot of shame about talking about these things, because we can think that there's something wrong with us because we're having them, but we're human beings and we're all having different experiences. And in my view, there are different realms. We're on a planet flying through space at 67,000 miles an hour. And we're not, I don't believe this is just it, this planet Earth. We've got all of these beautiful planets. I study astrology. We've got all of these billions of stars, all of these planets going on. There's definitely, in my view, there's more. So we don't even really know what sleep is and whether we're touching in with other realms. And that's from an empowering sense, you know, that we're more powerful than what we think we are in this human body, so to speak. So Carl Gustav Jung, he also brought up that we have the masculine and the feminine in us. So, you know, whilst I'm a woman, I have the masculine in me, and for men, they have the feminine within them. And those show up in dreams as well. So we can look at the different archetypes and what, you know, somebody shows up, maybe it's a male figure or a father figure or a hero or, you know, a mother figure or a godmother or a fairy godmother. We can really begin to see what the interactions we're having in our dreams, what does it mean? And definitely, you know, they change as we analyze our own dreams. So what else have I got here? I'm going to read, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read something from Carl Gustav Jung on dreams, which really fascinated me. And he says here, and this is from, he did a lot of writing and he's got collected works. And there's a paragraph here that I'd like to read from his work. He says this about dreams. He says, dreams are impartial, spontaneous products of the unconscious psyche outside the control of the will, meaning, you know, we can't will a dream. We can't make a dream happen. But I do know sometimes, like, if I've woken up from a really nice dream and I think, oh, I want some more of that dream, because I have nice dreams as well, thankfully. It means that, you know, you basically don't want to come out of that dream. You want to go back into that dream. And sometimes I've been able to do that, you know, go back into sleep and continue a dream. He says here, I'll read it from the beginning again because I interrupted there. So dreams are impartial, spontaneous products of the unconscious psyche outside the control of the will. They are pure nature. They show us the unvarnished natural truth and are therefore fitted as nothing else is to give us back an attitude that accords with our basic human nature when our consciousness has strayed too far from its foundations and run into an impasse. So, you know, if we're basically not dealing with something in life, we might wake up in a bit of terror, you know, if we haven't filled in our tax return, as an example, you know, and maybe that's a good thing that we wake up in terror and think, yeah, you know, I've got to sort that out. And then he goes on to say, he says, I have noticed that dreams are as simple or as complicated as the dreamer is himself, only they are always a little bit ahead of the dreamer's consciousness. I do not understand my own dreams any better than any of you, for they are always somewhere beyond my grasp. And I have the same trouble with them as anyone who knows nothing about dream interpretation. Knowledge is no advantage when it is a matter of one's own dreams. So that was the point where we can Google something and, you know, ask what a dream means. But again, what we've got to remember that whoever's interpreted that is another human being. So again, we've got to, you know, we can call in on our inner resources to understand what they are. I'm going to read a couple more paragraphs. He says, it can no longer be doubted today that meaningful connections are discoverable in dreams and other spontaneous manifestations of the unconscious. This raises the question of the origin of the unconscious contents, as they are genuine. Are they genuine creations of the unconscious psyche, or thoughts that were originally conscious but subsequently became unconscious for one reason or another? So we don't know, you know. It's like, I know that in my dreams that I see faces I've never seen before, and I can see buildings I've never seen before, and I can, you know, meet people I've never met before, and also see clothes, for instance, you know, like items of clothing that people are wearing that I've never seen before. So dreams are really fascinating, you know. We don't know whether it's, you know, our conscious, you know, what came first, the egg or the chicken. It's like, where do they come from? But, you know, it's a beautiful thing, being human, when we consider, you know, that aspect of our lives, our dream state. So a bit more, another paragraph. He says, the individual dream thoughts, or at least their elements, are always of conscious origin. Otherwise, they could not be represented or recognized. also, and what he means there, like, you know, we know a person is a person, and, you know, we know from, you know, watching television and all sorts of things, we know what an alien is to us. We can define that. We know what a hero is. So these are the archetypes. We know, we understand certain things that we've already agreed upon in the totality of the unconscious of humanity. We've all agreed upon certain things. Like if I say Father Christmas, we all know what Father Christmas looks like. Or if we say Jesus, we've all got an image that's going to be somewhat similar. So when we go off to sleep and we're calling in these images, we've got some understanding of what is going on to some degree. He also says here, also a whole sequence of images connected together in a meaningful way, or an entire scene, frequently derives from the conscious memory. But when we consider the meaning of the dream as a whole, the question or the derivation becomes much more difficult to answer. So far as can be established, continuing reading, he says, empathetically, the function of dreams is to compensate the conscious situation as though there was a natural drive to restore the balance. So all of these nightmares or, you know, flashbacks, we're trying to restore the balance. And even actually in awake state, like when we have triggers and flashbacks and, you know, anxiety, what's really going on is that those are informing us that we need to rectify a balance. We need to heal something deeply within us. And again, when we know that, anxiety and panic attacks can become empowering to us, that we know that we've got something to solve. Instead of thinking, oh my God, you know, I've got anxiety and panic attacks and I'm going to die, we can take it to another level, saying, you know, my body, my biology, my body is trying to tell me something, so we can begin to empower ourselves. He says here, the more one considers the conscious situation, the more one-sided the conscious situation is, the more the compensation takes on a complementary factor. Obvious examples of this can be found in people who naively deceive themselves or who hold to some fanatical belief. As we know, the most lurid scenes of temptation are depicted in the dreams of ascetics. I think it says ascetics here. In such cases, it would be very difficult to prove that the meaning of the dream derives from a conscious thought that subsequently became unconscious. For obviously no such reflection or self-criticism ever took place, and for that very reason had to be performed by the dream. The hypothesis becomes completely untenable when the dreams produce meaningful connections. So some dreams are going to have really meaningful connections. Like I've solved problems in dream state as well. Like you'll wake up and you go, oh, you'll have like a light bulb moment. He says, so which are absolutely unknown to the dreamer or which cannot be known to him. The clearest phenomena of this kind, convincing even to the layman, are the telepathic dreams, which give information concerning events at a distance or in the future beyond the range of sense and perception. So this bit I read here was from Carl Gustav Jung's work, and it's volume 18. And there were a few paragraphs, they're numbered though, with Carl Gustav Jung. So to understand your flashbacks, what you can do is get this book, the book that I flash nearly on every video. And this is below. You can, a hard copy of this you'd have to buy, but you can get a free copy on Audible USA, and you can get a free copy of this on Kindle UK. Another book I'm reading at the moment, which I love because I study astrology and the archetypes, and it also looks at past lives. This book here is called Understanding Karmic Complexes, and this is about evolutionary astrology and regression therapy. This is a brilliant book because it talks about past lives. So some of the things that, you know, when I've been reading this, I'm about halfway through now, you can see there. What I'm finding is that it's linking into some of my fears. I'm thinking, you know, some unusual fears I've got, and I'm thinking, oh, why I'm afraid of that, or where does that come from? So who knows? But, you know, it's definitely good to look at the psyche and understand it. This book is Jungian therapy. This is a guy called Donald Cowshed, and he talks about the self-care system and trauma and the soul. And again, the numinous, which is to do with God and, you know, the bigger picture. whatever God means to you, you know, it doesn't have to be a religious of religious content. You know, God just is. It's like we are part of that. There's no separation from the stars, the planets, and you know, there's just no separation. Everything is connected. Water, we're made of water. The moon affects the waters. You know, there's planets out there, and you know, the life gives planet Earth suns. So off on a rant there, but this one I'm going to be reading at some point. This is Dante, and it's called The Divine Comedy. This book was written 700 years ago. This book is not 700 years old, but this book was written 700 years ago. I think it was 1320, if I've got the correct date. You can hear this on YouTube. This whole book is on YouTube, which is brilliant to know. But I actually want to read it, because often I find when I'm listening on Audible, some words, I'll go off on a journey in my head when I hear one thing, and then so I don't, you know, when I read, I get a lot more information. I take on a lot more information. But again, this is quite numinous, and it talks about archetypes and all sorts of things. It talks about the pits of hell, and it's a beautiful book as well, Dante, The Divine Comedy. So that's it for today. So nobody's said hello to me. I hope you've heard me, whoever's watching. I hope it's been useful to you. And if you want to, you know, discuss anything with me, you can always come over to my Facebook page. I'm over on Facebook. I've got a like page, and I've also, you know, got a ladies group for any ladies that have anxiety or complex PTSD. You can join over there. It's quite a nice group of women. And for the guys who haven't got, you know, if you're not in any groups, there are a couple on Facebook that I do know that, you know, are really good as well. So that's it. I'll catch you later, and thank you for watching. Thank you.